why is it more risky to put more money down?
You have less cash for reserves, one. So if something goes wrong.
Yep.
Two, if you were to lose the house, you've got more money tied into it. So that's a negative. Three, you don't have enough money left over to go buy more homes or investments.
Welcome to another episode of The Financially Free Investor, where you will learn information and strategies on how to become financially independent by investing in real estate, something that is not taught openly in our society today. Financial freedom matters so you can live a bigger life, retire early, and do what matters most to you. Get ready to hear tried and true methods to becoming financially free with your host, Jordy Clark.
All right, everyone, welcome into another episode of the Financially Free Investor Podcast. Today, I have a pretty cool episode. Brady and I met back in Arizona. We met through GoBundance. I was in town for a training of some sort, and I texted and got a hold of the GoBundance guys, and they were meeting, and we met down there, and then we've since had a few other conversations. So, Brady, welcome on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Glad we connected.
Yeah, me too. So maybe let's just jump straight in and kind of hear your story. That way people have some context once we dive into everything that's going on in your life and what you've got going on, because it's some pretty cool stuff. So maybe give us a 7 to 10 minute recap of your life up until yesterday.
Today's not important. Okay, sounds good. So I grew up in Bozeman, Montana. Both my parents own businesses, so I kind of grew up in that world a little bit. I played sports. I think that helped me out throughout life a little bit, so that's been a benefit. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was a freshman in high school. My brother gave it to me. He read it and dropped out of college, and I read it and wanted to drop out of high school. But from that moment, I just knew I wasn't going to college. So my academics weren't the biggest focus, but since I've turned my education into the financial world, the real estate world. So I didn't end up going to college. I had a goal, which was, while my friends were in college, I wanted to buy a house every year while they were in college. And I figured if I did that, that would be quite an accomplishment. So I started buying houses long distance in Georgia. Timing wise, I graduated high school in 2009. So buying houses in Georgia in high school, my friends thought I was crazy. My parents thought I was crazy. All of my parents' friends thought I was crazy. But it turned out to be one of the best times ever to buy real estate. So
before we go on, I want to know the question, and I didn't ask you this the other day, but because I wanted to dive in here. I want to know the question that everyone on this podcast is asking themselves right now. How the crap did you buy a house out of state when you were in high school?
So the first one, so my parents, I don't know if they're mean about this or they're really smart about this, but my parents had the means, I would assume, to loan me money or give me money, but they effectively sent me out to raise capital myself in high school, which was one of the hardest, most people don't even know this, but one of the hardest things I ever had to do. I was going to like middle school principal that I knew that would come to my basketball games and like the most random people trying to raise money. And ended up with my grandma loaning on the first house. It was built in 2006, so pretty much a brand new house for $36,000 in Covington, Georgia. Then I went to just other friends and family and started raising capital. I had the houses paid off with the family loans once I actually started working in a career. I had, I think, 5 or 6 houses that I had paid off within 3 or 4 years because they're all in the $30,000 to $65,000 price range, and everything doubled and tripled, and I sold it. So, which maybe looking back might not have been a good idea, but what I did with the capital is I took all that capital and started buying more expensive real estate in Arizona, which was my wife's suggestion. She said, "Why are you messing with these rentals that are cheap in Georgia when you can start buying $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 houses?" Now I live in Phoenix. Been here since 2010. So
Yeah, smart. So, dude, let's dive. I'm just gonna barrage you with questions right now. What were those conversations like when you went to your grandma and you got the loan? Because I'm assuming how you set it up was you said, "Hey, grandma, why don't you lend me money? I'll pay you X amount of interest. You're going to be in first position on this house in Georgia." Is that about how it went?
yeah, so I think I paid 6.5%. Signed a very informal document. It wasn't ever recorded. This could be dumb too, but I've never recorded anything. People have just kind of trusted me with loans. So yeah, started making monthly payments, and they were just auto deposits to grandma. And I just knew the numbers so well and the basic numbers of cash flow that I was like, these things make sense. It's a $36,000 house they're renting for, I think, $750,000. And then all the other ones were 40 to 50,000 to 60,000, and they all rented for about $1,000 a month. So
Okay.
the math worked pretty good. One of them that was pretty rough, I actually had my property manager go to an auction in Georgia for me and bid on a house, which was fun. And they got it approved. I went to actually go get a loan from Wells Fargo. They said they would help me with a loan. And then the day it was actually supposed to close, Wells Fargo backed out. They said you didn't qualify on your income, which I was a bellman at the Westin Hotel at the time. So I had to get the money, I think, from family, and I paid it off within a year. So
how did you pay it off that quick?
Well, it was only that one was only like 35. So it wasn't bad. I mean, I was making good money as a bellman with tips and everything, and just put everything to it. And I just thought it was funny that the monthly payment that they didn't approve me on was like $150 a month. And I was like, I made that last night in tips. Like, so it was pretty funny. And I've not used Wells Fargo since. So
Yeah, and that's really interesting because I recently had a very similar experience, and this is supposed to be your episode, so I don't want to take too much time, but
no, I like it.
I want to tell this story because it's going to emphasize your story, which I think I want to debunk a belief that a lot of people probably have, right? So long story short, on the opposite end of the spectrum, and by the way, I used to be a bellman at the Grand America in Salt Lake.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a great hotel.
Yeah, I've got a special place in my heart for other bellmen. Like whenever we go somewhere, like, I'm a little bit probably more generous than I should be with my tips, but I know how hard those guys work, right? And so anyways,
that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's on the other end of the spectrum, I made really good money last year and the year before that, like 2 banner income years, like income that normally you only see as a doctor after, a decade of specialization, that kind of money. And I don't say that to brag. I just say that to frame up this story. I've got 6 Fannie Freddie loans in my name. Obviously, we're in 2023 now, so pricing is coming down on everything, at least here in Salt Lake, which it should because it went up 30% a year for a couple of years. And anyways, I'm trying to refinance out of a construction loan, and I went to 4 different lenders, and they said, we can't lend to you because you've got declining income. Well, yeah, technically I have declining income, but
oh my gosh,
it's a fraction of a percent on a very large income that, like, if I was a doctor, dude, they wouldn't even bat an eye. But I say that to add to your story that a lot of the times, guys and gals listening, banks are only looking for this stereotype, and I hate saying that word, but that's what it is, right? Like, they're looking for this person who fits in a box very nicely that is in their parameters, whatever their parameters are, right? And so, like, don't let that hold you back from investing, because Brady just told a story. I just told a story. I know of a million other stories of ways that you can invest in real estate and not need a bank, right? And so I love the creativity that Wells Fargo told you no, and you were like, okay, well, screw you, Wells Fargo. Like, I'm going to figure this out. And you picked up the phone and raised capital. And, for a retiree or someone, like 6.5% is pretty good return on your investment for a safe investment. And for you to have those paid off in a year, like it's a no-brainer, right? That's really cool. Yeah, talk me through how you guys made the decision once you were married to sell your stuff in Georgia and buy stuff in Arizona. Because coincidentally enough, I hope they're listening to this episode, but I have friends who live in Arizona and they are looking at investing elsewhere. And I, had a conversation with them and I was like, maybe take a second look and look at Arizona for a couple of different reasons. And, we spent some time on the phone, and wherever they invest, like that's fine. I'm going to support them and I'm happy for them, because at the end of the day, like, at least you're investing. But why did you go from Georgia to Arizona? Because even here in Utah, I see a lot of people investing elsewhere. And I'm like, man, why would you invest anywhere but Utah? Like,
Yeah, actually, I didn't know this, and I spent a lot of time growing up in Utah, but I think we actually have semi-similar markets. Arizona and Utah, continually growing is a big thing for sure. One thing that's huge here is the weather, and I figured there's so many snowbirds and everybody retiring over the years, and I saw it in my job, people moving south from the Washingtons and Illinois and everywhere down south. So they're either going to Arizona or Florida in general. So that demand is growing. When I moved to Arizona, there wasn't much for like industry and jobs per se, but tech has blown up here just like it has in Salt Lake. Big semiconductor plant going in here. So everything's going like crazy. But my wife was just like, why would you ever own something there, especially at the smaller numbers? Because the houses, when we sold them, they were all between 120, 150 range. Taking that equity and building up a portfolio of houses that are 550, if you look at the return on appreciation on your dollars, it's so huge on a bigger property. So we just went after, how much real estate can we buy? What's the most amount of debt we can get into, especially when rates were low? Should have bought more. And then every single house you could have bought over like about a 2-year period, everything would have cash flowed. So now everything that we have is cash flowing like right around $1,000 a month. And they're all pretty much brand new houses, which has been a theme of ours from the beginning, is we buy pretty much brand new. A lot of ours are townhomes with a teeny yard. They're super low maintenance. So we actually self-manage, but knock on wood, we get like a call like once every couple of months because everything's brand new. So we're lazy landlords. My wife is a realtor, so we bought everything off the MLS, other than that one auction property back in Georgia. But the numbers of growth is incredible. And the mortgage pay down, I think we pay down like 70 grand a year in mortgages, and we're not paying them. So yeah, I'm sure you relate to all of that.
Yeah. So I want to dive deeper on a couple of things and just make sure I understand and everyone else is understanding. So you took your properties that were paid for in another market and you sold them and put that equity and leveraged that equity. So you went out and got into debt, buying newer homes in, I'm going to call it a different market, because there are cash flow markets and then I think there are appreciation markets, and it's based on a few different factors, but high level in my mind, it's supply and demand, and is the population growing, stable, or declining, right? So then you looked at it and you said, okay, we want a population that's growing, because that's going to lead to more appreciation, not only on the price side, but rent side, if I caught that correct, right? So
yeah, we've seen that quite a bit.
So maybe when you bought a property, call it 4 years ago, that you paid retail for, that's newer, you put a tenant in there, was it break even? Was it maybe cash flow 100, $200?
So there's another level to it. Sorry to go off on this different, but we bought it as a primary with the aspect and the thought of we're going to move out in a year and turn it into a rental. So just like you playing the mortgage game, I've had to learn over the years how to creatively get mortgages. So we lived in that one for a year. When we bought the house, maybe 2 years. When we bought the house, the rents would have been like $3,200. We bought it for $450, and by the time we went to move out, it was worth about $800, and it currently rents for $4,500, $4,600. So, and that all happened within a couple of years, and the rents have stabilized at that higher number. But the mortgage was like $1,700, and we just did a cash out refi to go buy more stuff.
Yeah, that's great. And that's the benefit of being in an appreciating market is rents go up, right? Because renters, I love this topic. I'm like getting jazzed. Sorry. Renters have two options. They can rent or they can buy, right? And if it's cheaper to rent and easier to rent, they'll go rent. If it's cheaper to buy and easier to buy, they'll go buy, right? And so most of the time, and this is where it kind of gets into like big picture, for me at least, I don't think we're going to see this huge decline in house prices for a bunch of different reasons.
Do you care if it does? From
A
your
little bit, yeah. Because like I don't want it to drop 50%. Like it just means I can't sell. Right?
That's true. Yeah.
Like I care, but I don't really care until I go to sell. Like if it drops, I think it's a buying opportunity. But anyways, the point is it only matters. No, you're good. The point is, I think it only matters if you sell, right?
Yeah.
But it also, I mean, it does matter. Like I'd like to see it stabilize, but the point I was getting to was I don't think it's gonna get any cheaper to build a house. Like literally the sticks and bricks to build a house. I don't think that's going anywhere because everything is super expensive right now. That's different than 2006, 7, and 8, right? Because it was just like everything truly was a bubble surpassed by bad loans. And then we have so many people that locked in low interest rate, meaning sub 5% mortgages. And if you look in the past 70 years, our average is a 7% mortgage rate. So 80% of homeowners have a sub 5% mortgage right now. And a lot of those sub 4 and some of them are like sub 3% mortgages, right? Like I have a really good buddy who bought a house in Park City. And at the time he's like, I don't know if I can spend this. And I was like, dude, freaking do it to get the debt. And he got a VA loan at like 1.9% for $2 million. And he to this day is like, dude, thank you for pushing me into that because like the houses aren't getting any cheaper, but the debt has quadrupled for VA, but just goes to show, like, I don't think things are getting any cheaper on a rent level, right? Like they may soften a bit, but I don't see, your $4,500 house all of a sudden only renting for $2,000 a month right now. Because
Scottsdale.
No, because supply and demand, right? Like you've got all these people from California, from Washington. You said it, like a ton of people from Utah, Montana, Idaho, like cold weather is coming down into Phoenix because it's now a major city, right? And like, dude, if you're coming from LA, $4,500 a month is nothing. Like that's a 2-bedroom apartment and they're probably in a really nice house, right? So it's, in my mind, it's always compared to what. So that's what renters are constantly evaluating. Is it cheaper to rent or buy? And context matters because a lot of those people moving from California, like they're not moving to Georgia. They're not moving to Missouri.
Ohio, yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. So like there may be different geographic trends there, but I just know the Mountain West really well. And same thing's happening in Utah. Like people are coming here because we've got pretty mild winters. Like they're not like Bozeman winters. They're also not like Scottsdale winters, right? Like we're kind of conveniently right in the middle of both spectrums. So anyways, I love that theory. Tell me more about the debt, that you're okay being more in debt.
I mean, in GoBundance, we have the one sheet where we have our debt. We keep track of that. And my goal was to add $1 million of debt last year. And I think that'll probably be a goal every year. I know the dollar is devalued every single year, so I would rather keep stacking that up as much as I possibly can. From getting the debt, just doing that, transferring from primary residence to primary residence and turning them all into rentals. One, it just left us with nice rentals. And then we got lower rates, lower terms. Until I ran into a lender, I found a lender that would let me do 10% down on investment properties. And when I started doing that, I was like, whoa, we can now you can buy double the amount of houses and getting double the debt. So double the homes being paid down, double the cash flow, all of it. It's great.
It's awesome. So when did you guys start that transition? You started buying houses in high school in 2007, 8, 9.
Yeah, I house hacked my first house in Arizona in 2013 with my best buddies, which I didn't know what that was, but that's what it was. And then my wife and I bought our townhome in 2018. So
okay. And how long ago did you guys get married?
In 2019.
Cool. Yep. So in a market when, by the way, I remember 2018, a lot of people were like, oh, like even myself included this was in 2016 and 17. I was like, hey guys, we're at the top of the market, right? Top of the market. So it shows you how much I know. Don't listen to me. Anyways, it just goes to show like you guys took action and did it. And then from then, when did you start selling your stuff in Georgia and buying more stuff in Arizona? Was it after that?
And I sold my first one to buy the house in Arizona. I kind of sold them to have equity for down payments. So sold the other one probably right before the 2018 purchase, and then sold a couple more in there just to build that equity to go buy more. One big thing that I learned that I changed my mind on over the years was I used to think when you buy real estate, you should always put 20% down. And because I thought it was risky if you didn't. And then I quickly changed that to like, we just bought a primary house last July and we put 5% down, and the numbers are just insane when we turn this into a rental, what the returns will be. So
why is it more risky to put more money down?
You have less cash for reserves, one. So if something goes wrong.
Yep.
Two, if you were to lose the house, you've got more money tied into it. So that's a negative. Three, you don't have enough money left over to go buy more homes or investments.
So good. Okay. So fast forward to, let's call it a couple months ago. Oh, and by the way, what did you do for a job the whole time that this was going on?
I was a bellman for 5 years at the Westin.
In Arizona?
Yep.
Okay.
I was making 40 grand a year ish. I thought I was doing great when my friends are at college and I was making 40 grand. So I thought it was a big deal. And then I started selling timeshares for Westin at the same property, starting in 2015 or so. So I was with the same company all the way until about a month ago. I just quit for 13 years. So took advantage of lots of travel. If you've read Die with Zero, that was like what we've been living. Just go do whatever the heck you want to do. Maldives, Bora Bora, Dubai, all that stuff. So we took that income. So timeshare, we did pretty good selling with that. Also, I got into that because Robert Kiyosaki said you should learn to sell. So I said, perfect. I'm going to go do that.
Cool. You should learn to sell. I like that. So you took a different job that was uncomfortable to learn a new skill set, and it correspondingly made you more money that you invested into real estate.
took a year to make any money. And it was
Oof.
a really probably the most stressful year, but it's worth it. It worked out. So it was good.
Yeah. Cool. I like that story even more now. Okay, cool. So 2019 came up until a month ago when you quit. Why'd you quit, and what allowed you to quit? Because we're about the same age, early
Yep.
30s. How could you quit?
I have cash flow effectively. I didn't like the way that our company was going. I always think you should represent something that you believe in and trust. And we were bought out by another company, and I wasn't wild with the way things were going. We had a baby also at the end of October. So I took actually that 3 months off to decide what I want to be when I grow up. So still kind of figuring that out right now, but without cash flow, and I actually learned this because we got furloughed during COVID for 3 months. And I didn't want to lose control ever again. Obviously, you could get fired from a job. You have less control than you think, especially people are getting that right now. So I just really made a big effort to buy as much real estate as I could. And I've even started investing in syndications and stuff to build that passive income up. So that's been a goal, and it will continue to be a goal forever.
Yeah, that's awesome. You have less control than you think. I like that. Maybe that'll be the podcast title. And it's true though, right? Because like so many people cling to that security or what they think is security. And, like we're seeing it a ton right now, right? Like Microsoft just laid off 10,000 people. And like, guys, if you think your employer isn't going to lay you off just so that they can, take a loss on their quarterly earnings report, if you're publicly traded, like, I think working for a publicly traded company is like the most insecure job ever, because they will do whatever it takes to turn a profit every single quarter so their share price doesn't drop, so that their CEO, who's mostly paid on stock options, is compensated what he wants, right? Like it's all about him. And, I'm sure there's companies that are different, but for the most part, like I'd be willing to bet that's probably true, right? Not knowing fully every person that works in every big publicly traded company, but it just goes to show, like, man, COVID hit, and like it was just interesting to see who was deemed essential and whose jobs were deemed unessential, right?
Yep.
But to everybody, your job is essential.
Yep.
Because you got to freaking put bread on the table, right? Like, and so it's just interesting, I think, when especially government like jumps in and deemed some people essential and some people unessential. I was like, that's a freaking stupid word to use, but what do I know? I thought zombie apocalypse was upon us.
It was better in Arizona.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Well, I mean, there was maybe 3 or 4 weeks that I thought that here in Utah, because like, dude, I've never experienced a global shutdown, right? Like, never even heard of anything other than like I Am Legend, like. So it was just interesting, and I was like, man, I don't know what to believe now. All right, well, so your cash flow allowed you to quit.
Yep.
What's next? I know a little bit, so that question was.
So starting 2 companies right now. One I just started this weekend. I have a lot of people that have respected me and loved working with me in my timeshare sales career, because I was always honest, trustworthy, and I just want to save people money. So I get calls from a lot of my old clients that still want help. I know a lot of things about travel that most people don't know, and how to save money in travel. So I just created a website this last weekend to basically let people book calls with me and see if I can help them with travel. If I don't help them save money, then they don't pay me anything. So that's my new business model, because I can talk about 2 things all day long. It's real estate and travel. So why not do that for a job? And kind of control my own schedule. I like it. I can control my calendar on the website. So when people can even book to talk to me, it's pretty fun.
That's awesome.
And in the last week that this has been going on, I've helped 2 people buy off-market timeshares. I have 2 more that I'm working with right now to identify what's right for them. And then I've also helped one guy save $7,000 on his next family trip. So
Oof.
we're doing good. We're off to a good start.
That's awesome. So let's jump into that real quick because selfishly, I have questions. I actually talked to you about your post that you did about your timeshare in St. John because you guys can't make it this year. And dude, you were like, no, this is what you do. Boom, boom, boom. Like, this is who you need to call. And I was just blown away. I was like, oh, this is freaking great. So is your new company, is it like a travel agency?
It could be. So I did put something on the website to schedule just general travel questions if somebody wants help. If they're like a big spender and need help with credit card points and maximizing that, if you're spending a lot of money every month, you should definitely do some research on what's the best way to do that. If somebody's booking a trip like that gentleman I mentioned, just let me take a look at the trip, see if I can save you money. And then if I can't, take your money back, whatever, that's fine. So that's 2 of the things. The third thing is resale timeshares can work just as effective as retail timeshares. Timeshares can be phenomenal uses for travel because you're only paying a maintenance fee to travel. And it's just the resale industry is very confusing. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can end up buying the wrong product. So because of my knowledge, I can coach somebody through, and I charge like $600 to coach somebody on buying the right ownership for them and what their family's actual travel needs are. Cause I can diagnose that within 15 minutes, and then I'll go do the search and verify that it's the right purchase.
So why would somebody own a timeshare versus just go wherever they want?
If you want to go wherever you want, if you're good with spending ungodly amounts on travel, then go for it. Like I say, if somebody's a 4 Seasons Ritz-Carlton traveler and they're just good with paying the $1,500 a night, $2,000 a night, they should not own a timeshare. It's definitely not for them because they're just living in convenience life. So examples on a timeshare, like I'll pay $1,500 in maintenance fees to book a week in Maui, maybe $1,600 maintenance fees, when that week would cost you $6,000 or $7,000 to book that week. If I buy it once and then I just have that annual maintenance fee, it's kind of like buying a 30-year fixed mortgage for your travel. That's kind of how I look at it. Maintenance fees go up, but they go up so minimally. It's kind of like your HOAs on your properties kind of change a little bit every year. But the cost of travel is just, especially over the last couple of years, just gone insane.
So that's interesting. So I like that analogy a lot too. Can a business own a timeshare?
It can. It's kind of messy. At least buying it through Weston, the company, they hated dealing with it.
Okay. Okay.
You can do it. You can put it in your LLC. It's kind of weird when you check in and it's Jordy Clark's LLC checking into the front desk. If it's not actually your name on the LLC, it's kind of funky. The other thing that we do a lot, and you mentioned it already, is we turned our timeshares into a business. So we will rent out a lot of our ownership when we're not using it. Instead of renting it for, let's say somebody would get that Maui week for $7,000, I put it up for $3,500. I made $2,000 to go pay some of my other maintenance fees, and then I'm getting some travel for free. So,
yeah, no, that's interesting.
I like to stay in those $1,500 to $2,000 night rooms and not pay the rates. We've just gotten spoiled with our travel.
Dude, well, I'm the hacking king, right? Like I find a way to hack my cars. I find a way to hack, everything. And, I think real estate's the greatest hack because just your debt usually stays the same and rents just keep going up every single year. And like, you just start compounding it. Right. So I like it. Maybe we'll speak offline about that. But if people want, if this is resonating with someone and they want to, have you help them find, because I'll bet people try to just get out of timeshares. And so I'd be willing to bet there's motivated sellers in that, just like there's motivated sellers in everything, right?
Totally.
But especially because like I was a big Dave Ramsey guy when we were trying to get out of debt like 7 years ago, and he hates them.
Yes, he does.
So, but there's a couple things I disagree with him on.
Like debt.
Well, no, because I think we do have a debt problem in America. Like if you look at the average family, they are living paycheck to paycheck. Most of that is a big car that they probably shouldn't have. Right. But like, I mean, I think having a car payment when you're
I'm
self-employed.
talking about your real estate portfolio. Debt.
Oh, well, yeah, that
Yeah.
for sure. Like he's no debt anywhere, right? But
yeah,
I think the point I was getting at is like most Americans, if they went through like a basic financial training like he has, then
it would be a good thing.
It would be a great thing, because then everyone wouldn't be living on the absolute brink of financial disaster. And like that, just having been in that space previously, like when you're living paycheck to paycheck or commission to commission or whatever, and like something happens, dude, a flat tire is the most stressful thing in the world, because you're like, how on earth am I going to pay for a $300 tire when, like, and so being in that space, like, dude, you don't make great decisions about your life and your life's trajectory and what you want for your life, because you're so worried and anxious about like paying bills. So I actually think most Americans would really benefit from doing like his total money makeover.
Totally.
Getting that reined in and figuring out like, hey, this is where you need to live compared to whatever your income is. And then, you got to give 10%, you got to save 10%, you got to invest 10%, and then you got to live on 70 or whatever the ratio is. Most people are like, they're living on 105% and they're not giving anything. And like, just as a spiritual person, like I think God designed this whole universe and existence and like life for us to enjoy, right? And if you're financially freaking stressed about a $300 flat tire or whatever, like throw whatever you want in there for $500, like, dude, most Americans can't cover a $400 emergency, really. And so like that would benefit a lot of people. And I think you have to kind of get that under control before you start investing, because
totally,
like you can bury yourself even if it's in good debt, but you have no liquidity. And like, if you're the type of person that every time $10,000 hits your bank account, it's gone before it hits your bank account, like you shouldn't be investing. Or you should at least be aware of it and then like build other decisions around it. Right. But yeah, I just think there's levels, and you've got to see clear enough to be able to make decisions about like mortgages and car loans and stuff like that, versus like just doing it to impress your neighbor who doesn't really give a rip what you drive, right? Like
totally.
Or someone at a stoplight. So anyways.
Yeah, we love his podcast. We think it's hilarious. we enjoy it, and I completely agree. I think everybody should have some basic knowledge, because everyone could use the help. Not everyone, but a lot of people.
I kind of cut you off, but what's your company name and how can people find out more about you if they're interested in your services?
Yeah, so it's insidertimeshare.com. So I just started the website this last weekend. I've never built a website before, so be gentle. This is my first shot at it. So still working on it. It'll get better and better. You can hit me up on Facebook. I even started an Insider Facebook page, Insider Timeshare Facebook page, that I'm posting rentals and stuff. So yeah, that's probably awesome. The best way.
We got to chat offline about that, but I want to be sensitive to your time. What does your portfolio look like now? And then I want to end with 2 questions that I ask almost every guest.
So we have 6 rentals, primary residence, that will be turned into a rental at some point here. And then we have, I don't know how many different horizontal lines we have of syndications. I keep building in the syndication space, so it's been kind of fun to add that as a different aspect. Probably somewhere between 7 to 10 other lines. Cool.
Knowing what you know now, what is one thing that you would tell somebody who's just starting on their path to financial freedom?
Read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's probably step one. Step two is just educate yourself. Podcasts like this are like the easiest education ever. I still listen to probably 3 or 4 podcasts a day. And then kind of like we talked about before, spend less than you earn and invest the difference. Like every dollar that we made from our passive income while I was working my W-2, and then every dollar that my wife made as a realtor, we put that all back into buying real estate. It wasn't even a question. It was a separate bank account to just go directly into buying real estate. So when we get enough money for another down payment, time to go buy another house.
Cool. Knowing what you know now, what would you change on your journey?
I don't like to live in regret at all. Like we said earlier, we're too young to have regrets. The obvious one is buy more real estate. So I think that's a cop-out answer. Yeah, I don't have any. I don't think. We travel a ton. Other than buying more real estate, that's just cheap though. I can't just that's not a good answer. So.
Well, I think it's a great answer because to your point earlier in the conversation when we started, that you probably could have figured out a way to buy more real estate, right? You leverage or going back to somebody that you paid off and saying, hey, sorry I paid you off. Would you, that was insensitive of me to not allow you the opportunity to earn interest, right? I'm totally just building this on the fly.
Yeah. So to your point, like looking back at that, and I guess you're right, it is a decent answer. I could have gone way harder and it wouldn't have been that much more difficult. I had a proven concept. I have proven concepts. So once something works, just pound on it. That would be my advice. Because I probably stopped at 5 or 6 properties in Georgia because I thought that was enough when I could have easily done 20 without any much more effort.
So good.
Thank you for helping me discover that and feel bad.
No, it's not like feel bad. It's more of like, I think it's an interesting question because there's all stuff we could have done differently, right? And just knowing what we could have done differently allows you to make decisions through that lens in the future, right? So instead of repeating the same mistake with my wife over and over and over and over again and like beating myself up for it, knowing it and then changing, like those two things are powerful, right? And so like just if someone's listening to your story and they're in a similar boat, but they haven't maybe sold their properties that are paid for and went and traded up into better markets, better areas, better properties, newer properties, like whatever that looks like, right? I think there's power in that and there's wisdom. And
yeah, I think one of my favorite quotes was, if I might butcher this, but it was, when is the best time to plant an oak tree? And it's either 20 years ago or today. So if you haven't done it, just start now.
Yeah. So good. Okay, cool. Well, dude, thanks for coming on here and I look forward to staying in touch. And yeah, with that, we'll sign off. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Financially Free Investor. If you found value in this episode or know someone who would find value in this information, please share with them, subscribe, and send us a review.